Schneider's Bakery episodes are like Newton's third law. For every episode, there is an equal and opposite episode. Meaning, every time there's an episode that brings up a concept and does it poorly, there's another episode somewhere out there in the Schneiderverse that does the same concept way better. Hey guys, Pie Guy Rules here, and welcome to the third installment of the Bizarro Bakery. So the third bottom of the bakery I did was the episode I Pear Store. And so it should come as no surprise to anyone that the Bizarro counterpart of that episode is Movie Job from Drake and Josh. I even mentioned in my rant how similar the two episodes are. And if I Pear Store is 4 pear cupcakes that didn't get cooked at all, then Movie Job is obviously a singular popcorn muffin. Google it, it's a thing. So Movie Job is an episode about Josh getting a job at a movie theater called The Premiere, and Drake shortly following after he finds that he is short on money. Josh is really hardworking and loves his job, though he gets ignored by the manager Helen, and Drake is really lazy and doesn't want to put any hard work into it at all, but keeps getting praised by Helen because he's really charismatic. Drake eventually ends up as the assistant manager and in charge of Josh. Josh gets increasingly frustrated at how Drake is able to be lazy and still get away with all this stuff while Josh is hardworking and doesn't get any praise whatsoever. So Josh decides to do something bold and have a contest. During the contest, though, everyone goes nuts and starts beating each other up over the prospect of these little golden balls, and of course, it's all Josh's fault. Josh knows he's going to be fired, and he has a little discussion with Drake, which prompts Drake to step in and take the blame, getting himself fired and letting Josh continue to work at the premiere. One of my big problems with I Pear Store was that it had too many subplots, so many that each of the stories just didn't have any time to play out and came off as incredibly vague. This episode has no subplots to speak of. It is just the one story. Movie Job is able to take its time. It's able to move at a slightly slower pace. That's not to say that it's slow or anything, but it allows you to digest the information that's being given to you a lot easier when scenes have breathing room, when it's not just bam, we gotta get this joke out, bam, we gotta get this joke out, okay, here's another subplot, bam, joke out, joke out. No, it's a lot more relaxed, and I think it helps the episode. And the characters are able to really just discuss things. You don't get that in a lot of the newer Schneider's Bakery shows, and definitely not in I Pear Store. Things just happen, and there's no time afterwards to really think about them. Because of this, I still don't really know what Sam was feeling at the end of the episode. Did she quit because she genuinely felt bad that she got Freddie fired, or did she quit because she wanted to get him fired and really just didn't care about the job anymore? I don't know, because there's no scene after that where the characters sit down and discuss things. But in Movie Job, there is. At the very end of the episode, we get a little conversation between Drake and Josh, where Josh asks Drake why he gave up his job for Josh. Not only is it a sweet scene, but it actually gives an explanation to his actions instead of just leaving me scratching my head. Another issue I had with I Pear Store was how Sam was able to sell all these electronics despite being a horrible people person who's incredibly rude. The only explanation given there is just that Sam is really pushy and the customers are really stupid, but we don't even get to see enough of the plot for me to really know if that's what they were going for, because the story happens so fast there. In this episode, we really see how Drake became the assistant manager. Helen likes him, he knows how to be charming, and through situations that aren't entirely Drake's fault, he keeps ending up looking like the better employee despite Josh's best efforts. It's not like he's really trying to make Josh look bad, it's just that that's the way things keep playing out. Sure, he comes off a little bit smug about the situation and his new position of power, but he never actively tries to put Josh down in any way. He's not like intentionally framing him for things or trying to get him fired. Unlike in I Pear Store, where Sam, well, from what I can tell, took the job just to annoy Freddie and just to have an excuse to be mean to him. And in I Pear Store, the boss likes Sam as well, but unlike in Movie Job, we don't actually get to see why. I don't know, I guess she likes how spunky she is. She definitely has positive feelings towards Sam, but we don't actually get to see or understand why that is. You know what else Movie Job doesn't have? An attempt at molesting the main character. Just throwing that out there, because even though I watched I Pear Store again, I still don't entirely understand what was up with that scene, and it is just so bizarre. But you know what Movie Job does have? Crazy Steve. He's not in it for very long, but man does he make a lasting impression. Fruity doody doo to you too, Steve. When you really break it down, I Pair Store is a nasty episode at its core. If you look at every single one of the plots, all of them are just really, well, I know they're supposed to be funny, but they just come off as cruel. You have the kid who almost molested Carly, Sam taking a job just because it will frustrate Freddy, some really cringy comedy where this one guy sweats and is miserable because he can't manage to sell a single cell phone case, and Spencer possibly burning down an entire firehouse and ensuring that the next fire that happens because of Spencer will probably not get put out, meaning tons of people will die. But look at Movie Job. Sure, Josh goes through a lot of bad things happening to him, but he still gets a happy ending. Drake recognizes that Josh deserves it and he gives up the job to him. I'm not saying stories always need a happy ending, but if you're gonna put characters through a ton of crap, it really does help it not feel overly mean if the character actually gets to have a happy ending. I should also point out that Movie Job is really funny, though I can't honestly be sure if that's just my nostalgia speaking, because apparently I knew this episode so well that I was able to recite some of the lines. Additionally, of all the episodes I've covered on the bottom of the bakery, I Pair Store is probably one of the funnier. It does have some parts that I do find funny, like the opening with Gibby shoving people's faces into his armpit. They're not that funny, and it's definitely not enough to make up for the problems I Pair Store has, but I feel like I should recognize that there is some comedy in there. And the last thing I want to talk about here is how much of a ripoff I Pair Store is of Movie Job. I know it was made by pretty much the same people, but still, they ripped off their own idea just pretty much beat for beat up until the ending. Josh and Freddy get a job at a store they really like working at. Sam and Drake follow suit and get a job at the same place, not because they actually want to work there, but for their own selfish reasons. The boss really likes Drake and Sam and hires them instantly, and they both proceed to do some really subpar work, but end up more successful than Josh and Freddy, who progressively get more and more frustrated that despite being good employees, thanks to things that are out of their control, they end up looking terrible. Sam and Drake both get promoted above Josh and Freddy and flaunt their power a little bit. And the story ends when a character gets fired. Isn't it just sad how much they took from Movie Job? And it's not even like they took that basic plot structure and did something crazy or unusual or interesting with it. No, I Pair Store is less of a story than Movie Job. They just took the bare bones plot synopsis from Movie Job and ripped it off and threw it into I Pair Store. The only thing different about I Pair Store is the fact that I Pair Store has a ton more subplots and also has much more of a nasty tone. So there you go. Movie Job is a much more well-developed story with much more relatable and understandable characters who don't come off as really nasty, whereas I Pair Store juggles 4 different subplots, all of which go absolutely nowhere, and Freddy, who is in the right the entire time about Sam having an arrest record and all of these other horrible things, getting treated like crap and having absolutely 0 good things happen to him at the end of the episode. It very much shows a shift in how Drake and Josh was versus how later iCarly was. Most episodes of Drake and Josh are very much about telling a story, even though there are quite a few jokes in there, whereas in certain iCarly episodes like I Pair Store, it's all about getting out as many jokes as possible, and not worrying at all about major story things like having an actual ending. Pie Guy Rules, out.